Hello, GSD. Welcome, everybody. I am with one of my favorite people, and I know I say this every week. However, this is one of my favorite people from way, way back when. Shaun, I remember when I first came to a training of yours, and you were teaching team leaders, and I'm pretty sure I was a team leader, which would have been in '06.
Sounds about
So,
right.
everybody, this is Shaun Rawls from Atlanta, Georgia, a new author of
Hello.
Effortless. And Shaun, tell us a little bit about your book.
So, Effortless is a book about change, most specifically, how to make the right kind of changes in your life and question the changes you've made in your life, right? So, most people I figured out don't like change so much, and they go through it by saying F it. They just kind of give in or give up to something. And that's how a lot of people fall into a pattern of making some pretty big decisions in their life and their business. And I thought, what if there was a better way? What if they didn't say F it? What if the F word were a different word? What if it meant something more positive? What if it meant something more constructive and more architectural and had some substance behind it that you really were passionate about and help you make better decisions in your life to get you more where you want to go? So Effortless is at the core of it. It's about kind of creating the energy in the world that in your world that gets you where you want to go. And Effortless helps you kind of figure out where you are, what you want, and some of the obstacles that most people really struggle with in between what they want and where they actually go. And then helps you kind of reset a course and reset some sails and get you back in the game better, stronger, a little bit more clear, and a little bit more forgiving of yourself. Because I think most people, and I think most people in our industry that are probably part of your group are, I found that great producers are harder on themselves than most other people are on them. And that's a trait that can be super appreciated, but it's also a trait that can hold you back. It's kind of a double-edged sword because typically when you're quiet and you're talking to yourself, you're probably not celebrating your victories as much as you're just really just miserable about the things you did wrong and you don't let it go. And I think people kind of carry what they call mistakes or flaws around far too long, and their bag just gets too heavy to move with speed where they want to go. And you kind of have to unpack that and get it a little bit lighter so you can go a little bit faster and a little bit farther.
So you can say F it to your baggage.
You can say F it to your baggage. It's, I tell a story. One of the chapters, one of the F words is forget. And at the end of it, I've got a stepson who's a Little League baseball player. And when he was 9 or 10, he had a coach for summer league. And, at that age, when they make a mistake on the field, I mean, you'll see little kids that look like little men in baseball uniforms break down in complete tears because they struck out or they dropped a ball or made a mistake. And the coach would always just yell, flush it, flush it.
Nice.
Flush it from the sideline, just like, and he just said, look, mistakes are part of the game. It's part of life. And if you want to catch the next ball, you're not going to do it with tears in your eyes. So stop, just get over it and make your mistake and move on. And so there was I got a lot out of that because I think we as people, we do the same thing. I mean, we're not on baseball fields necessarily, and we may not be openly crying, but we've got something we're just stirring over, and it's a mistake that we feel like we made or shouldn't have made or should have done better, and we just won't let it go. And we just hold ourselves back. And I think that if I can help people be a little bit kinder to themselves, I think they can do more with the life that they're living.
So Jason, what's his last name, is in Lasso.
Okay.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that show? And
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
One of my favorite shows.
Okay. Ted Lasso. Do you remember the goldfish quote?
Yes. Shortest memory.
That's right. The animal's memory is a goldfish. And so when somebody makes a mistake out on the soccer field, he's like, goldfish.
Be a goldfish. Be a goldfish.
Be a goldfish. Forget it. Right. So let's talk about some of the other F words.
Sure. What do you want to talk about?
F words out of the book.
It's interesting. There's 18 of them, and it kind of comes into play what you're dealing with. I find that what matters, but there's a couple of interesting ones. There's one called float, and float is a good one for me because most people are so busy being busy, and they are just trying to make things happen all the time that it's, when you step back and look at it, sometimes it feels like we're just pushing on doors that are supposed to meant to be pulled open. Right. And so, but we're just so busy being busy. We don't recognize the signs, and B, we just think our will is going to overtake everything. But I've kind of learned in my life that there's this current of the universe that is always running in the background, and it's getting you where you're supposed to be, and it's going to make sure you reconcile some things that you need to reconcile along the way. Sometimes early, sometimes late, sometimes pretty ugly, but it's float is about just taking some time to be quiet. And for me, one of the traits that I learned about 5 or 6 years ago is I learned how to do transcendental meditation. And prior to that, I would have said, if you would have talked to me about meditation, I would have thought that you were full of fairy dust, and I would have laughed at you and discarded anything you had to say, because I just wasn't open to the idea, and I just thought it was for a completely different human being than me.
Right.
But when I learned that skill, I realized, oh my God, I can actually stop the world for 20 minutes at any given time and just be quiet and just basically jump in the pool, sit on the bottom of the pool. All that noise that was in stereo is now just a dull thing in out there somewhere. And there's a real power to that. If you can, and it doesn't have to be meditation. It could be prayer. It could just be a quiet time. It could be walks, but everybody's got their thing. And I think that sometimes check yourself for being, I mean, we're in a business where people just, they wear working hard like it's a prize, and they brag about how many people they showed and how many hours and how many houses and how many this. And at some point you're going, and when did you eat and where did you eat? And when, how much sleep did you get? And did you look haggard while you brag about this. So let's kind of pull it back a little bit. So float is a really important F word that I think a lot of people that are entrepreneurs need to kind of embrace a little bit more and figure out how to be more efficient in their success than just having success at all costs, right?
And in this market, Shaun, agents are working harder than they've ever worked. And
they're more stressed because you have to be on top of it. Things have to happen. I mean, I get it. I mean, early bird gets the worm, and early bird gets the email. Everything happens fast. Everything's just so fast, and there's no inventory. I mean, no matter who you talk to, the inventory is far outstripped by buyers and multiple offers, and it's hard. I mean, it's not easy being a real estate agent these days, right?
so the public right now, it always, it's such a fascinating conversation. Wow, I wish I was in real estate right now because you guys are making a killing.
Oh.
And my conversation back is always, yeah, we're writing 7 offers per buyer. That's our average, or 6 offers per buyer, whatever it may be. And they have no idea how hard we're working. And I think float, what you just said, is so incredibly important right now, because if we're not leveling ourselves out and filling up our buckets, we're not going to be good for anybody.
No.
Family especially.
No. It's look, we're in an industry where you get paid well to serve other people well, right? Yeah. So and that can be, and if you're good at it, and that's a natural thing for you, it is that becomes addicting. It's like a drug. I mean, you love the gratification of being a superhero for somebody and solving their needs and making the deal happen. And they're just but we have to find a way to create some balance where I'm important too, right? And I can't, if I really want to be the best at serving other people, I have to admit to myself, I can never be my best if I'm depleted, right? I can never do my best if my best is running on fumes. It's just, there's no, I had a tennis coach years ago. That was my sport, and I used to coach it and all that stuff. But I played competitively as a kid, and I had a coach that would always talk about the margin for error. And, because when you're little, you think you can hit everything, man. You aim for the lines all the time. And he would say, look, it's a great shot if you hit the line. And that's what he said, but you have to give yourself a margin for error, because you're just not going to be that precise all the time. And when you get tired, you're going to get less and less and less precise, and you have to have more and more and more margin for error. So people just need to realize that, what kind of margin of error do you have? I mean, and a lot of people in our business don't even know what that is. So there's none. So finding those little places, and I think we have to get really good. And this is why transcendental meditation was so good for me, because I just knew I could pull over and take 20 minutes to kind of do something for me and stop the world for a second. And most people say, well, what's going to happen in 20 minutes? Not a ton, except that you're actually controlling a moment of your day. Because I mean, if you think about it, most people run around and they feel like they're the tail wagging the dog, right? And that they go to bed and they go, what the hell happened today? I mean, it was just, I didn't do any, I had 4 things on my list I needed to get done. I didn't get one of them done because I was in, superhero mode all day. And I just never took time to regroup. And I think that we have to find whatever it is that just gives you that moment that realize, you can stop the hourglass, just stop it, just turn it over for a second or 5 minutes or an hour and then put it back on. But we have to learn. It's like a lot of things in life. It's not complicated, but it's hard, right? Because what's easy to do is easier not to do, right? Because habits take over.
So I've been teasing my son about writing a book about how to go to college. And he applied for every mountain school in the whole country his junior year without telling me, because he was like bound and determined and motivated to go and ski during college.
Okay.
And I will tell you that, he's an anxiety kid, and he has learned at this age, and I've talked to physicians and psychologists about him, because he knows when he has a test coming up, Shaun, he'll go hike the M, which is a 2-mile hike. If he has a giant paper coming up, he'll go do 2 runs and clear his head.
He has no choice but to take care of himself.
He has no choice except to take care of himself. And he's learned this at such a young age, that nature is so much a part of his regular routine, because he turns everything off and he goes and takes care of himself and he clears his head. And I learned so much from him watching this going through college, because, he's not on any prescriptions. He's not on any of that stuff. He literally uses nature to clear his head. So
I love it.
He floats.
I love it. I've got a good friend, actually the lady who's the co-author on the book, who's a top author in the country. She is producing a movie right now called Anxious Nation. And it's a documentary interviewing these families and people and kids and doctors and specialists and rabbis and priests, and on the subject of anxiety and how people are dealing with it and how they're coping with it and how it affects their lives. And I mean, it's going to be a fascinating thing, because nobody's really talking about it in certainly in this format. It's for people that deal with it. It's a real monster. And if you learn the skills, like it sounds like your son has, to kind of tame it, that's awesome and good for you. I mean, how proud are you of him?
Super.
Yeah.
Super. And he's going to be off my payroll in 3 more months too. Freedom.
That's my guess he was trained well, and he's gonna do well on his own.
Yeah.
Sounds
so
like.
I want to dig deep here and talk about the pendulum.
Let's go.
We're talking a little bit earlier about the pendulum and chaos.
Yes.
What's in balance? So let's talk about the sides of the pendulum and how that swings with chaos.
Sure. So you've got we all have this zone in life that we like to stay in. It's called our comfort zone, right? And as long as we stay in there, we're pretty good. We're not ruffled. We're not stressed. We're not anxious. We're just kind of staying in that zone. But if you've lived long enough, you realize that that your comfort zone is kind of a base to come back to. It's not a place to stay. And life kind of swings to and fro along the way. And there's a source of energy that hits us that is negative chaos, or what I would call a headwind, right? Where it just feels like you're fighting to move forward and you want to do this, but the world's telling you to do this, or somebody died, or somebody quit, or somebody got sick, or, I mean, there's just all these factors that come in and they just take your attention, and you get pulled out of that comfort zone into an energy source that's chaotic in a negative sense. And you kind of end up getting frustrated, and you end up in this mode that I call F it, right? Where it's just like, you know what, you have no choice, but you feel like you just give into it, and you give into that energy. And the problem with saying F it, and a lot of people make changes that way, I've found in my life. And the problem with it is they think they're just doing something to get on to doing something else. But when you look back on your life, the way you make decisions is more often than not a habit or a pattern that you've created for yourself to make you feel better about the decisions you're truly not making. So we've all also lived on the side of the pendulum where the chaos kind of happens, where we fall in love, we get a job, we start doing great at our job, we get a puppy, we buy a house, we do all kinds of things. We start playing tennis again, our golf game is good, I found a new friend, she makes me laugh, and we do whatever. I mean, there's all these things that happen that's chaos too. It takes us out of our comfort zone because it's something new, but it's so fun and inspiring. And it just, our energy is up because we're around people that bring it up. And that's what I call effortless. That's where you start living in this world where everything's opportunistic, everything seems a little bit effortless, everything feels like more of a tailwind than a headwind. And if we can recognize the difference between those two and realize that we're just a pendulum swing away. So when we're in that negative zone, we can say, that's not the chaos I really want to live with. And I really don't want to say F it and stay here. I want to employ another F word, and I want to start moving this pendulum back to an energy source for me that gives me a tailwind and gives me energy and allows me to have what this effortless life is that I kind of describe in the book. So that's the pendulum for me.
If somebody's over in that headwind,
yeah,
they're hitting mediocrity,
yeah,
how do they swing the pendulum?
I think you have to realize it, right? There's a self-check of saying, okay, so what do you want, right? Here's a great exercise. Let's do this exercise, because this would be an excellent thing for people to do. So if people are on it and you're sitting in front of a computer and you've got a piece of paper, pull out a piece of paper, and you're going to love this, Shannon.
Okay.
So divide the paper into 4 quadrants. Just make it a big cross, right?
Okay.
In the upper left-hand quadrant, draw a plus sign. Upper right-hand quadrant, draw a subtraction sign. Lower left-hand quadrant, draw a multiplication sign. In lower right-hand quadrant, it's a division sign.
Okay.
So, and here's what you got to do. So your job as the CEO of your life is to put people and tasks in this category. So from a business standpoint, I would say, okay, so in the upper left-hand quadrant, the plus sign, these are people that you know and tasks that you do that give you energy and add to the quality of your life or business. People and tasks that give you energy and add to the quality of your life and business.
Okay.
Upper right hand, subtraction sign. These are people and tasks that don't give you energy, right? And if anything, maybe takes it away, or kind of like, it's just not something I enjoy. I don't really enjoy this person. They're kind of a necessary evil, blah, 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 I got to do it. Those all go there.
Okay.
Lower left hand, consider the plus good and consider this quadrant great. So what are the people and tasks that don't just give you energy, but multiply it? This is your most dollar productive activity. This is your your biggest return on investment from energy, love, money, whatever. Okay. And in the lower right-hand quadrant, these are not tasks and people that take away energy. These are people and tasks that suck the friggin' life out of you. These are the things you frigging hate doing. This is the people, and here's the problem, right? So sometimes we're related to these people.
Yeah.
and so it's hard. So we may not be able to completely eliminate, but we can definitely mitigate in that category. So so now you've got this list of things. So now if you just have been putting up with all these people without categorizing them, or putting up with all these tasks without categorizing them. But now when you put Bob in the division category, the next time you see Bob, you will never look at him the same, because you gave him a label he'd never had before.
Yeah.
Right. And same with tasks and anything else. Anything in that category's got to go. But here's what I found. If we all believe and go back to our training for 80-20, my guess is 80% of your time is spent on the right-hand side of that quadrant, and 20% of your time is spent on the other. And the goal is to spend the most amount of your time on the other side, and particularly in that multiplication category, and delegate the rest with, you're a master at systems. So create a system and this is a simple one on paper, but take that and run with it and create a system that allows you to recognize the things that are kind of holding you back, that dead weight in your world, and offload it through systems and leverage, offload it through just saying no, just offload it, or at least mitigate it, or figure out a way to put some boundaries in place so that those things don't impact you. But that's when you ask how to get out of that, if you're in a weird spot and you do this exercise, my guess it's going to be pretty freaking clear why you're in a weird spot. And you're going to go, okay, well, that's that. And then you go through the exercise that's in the book, which is, it's a bubble version of, we kind of grew up in the world of a 1-3-5 kind of thing. It's my version of that. And I've always done it differently than it was taught to us. So I outline that in the book and show it. But if you can take this exercise, roll it into that, you've got a really simple plan that can help you really with anything. And if you can teach your kids this, it's huge, because this is my business planning strategy. I mean, it's like, I used to say, if I can't see your business plan from 20 feet away, it's not going to get done. It's not a term paper. It's all about bubbles. It's all about pictures, and it's visual. Because if you were running a team and you did that exercise the way I have it on bubbles, you'd have a highlighter color for the things that get done in a week, and the things get done in a month, and things get done in 3 months, and things get done in a year or less. And then Tommy does that. You take the yellow, you take the green, you take the whatever. So it's kind of, that's a simple tool to move the needle and move the energy in your life, and realize I don't have to play a victim to this energy. I just have to recognize what it's there. And as soon as I recognize it, half the battle is in recognizing it. Because one of the things I talk about in the book that you've heard a lot in your role in the past is people would say, well, gosh, for me to get from here to there, that would take a lot. That would take a lot of money, or a lot of effort, or a lot of energy, or that's a lot.
A lot of years.
And people say a lot like it's a number, like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a lot, 9, 10, 11, 12. They say a lot like we all know what the hell a lot is. But when I'm sitting here crying in front of you going, Shanan, that's a lot. That's just, you're asking me to do that. You know how much, that's a lot. And you're going,
what's the number?
I don't see it as a lot, right? And so what's a lot to you? Because maybe $10,000 isn't a lot to you, but it's a lot to me. Or maybe 10,000 hours isn't a lot to you, but it is to me. Or maybe it doesn't make any sense. So once we take those things, because one of the things I used to love about that MREA plan is it would take the word a lot, and then you drill down and you go, well, it looks like you only have to take 2 listings a week. Is that doesn't sound like a lot, does it? And they go, no. And you go, okay. So we just have this stuff. It's like this closet that's filled with shit, right? That we just keep putting all the shit in the closet, and it's okay because the house looks clean, but just don't open that door. And
right.
Because there's a lot behind there. But as soon as we open it up and we spend a Saturday and we go, well, I'm going to throw that away, and I'm going to throw that away, and that goes here and that goes here. And all of a sudden you're in an hour and you're going, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
So this is just a process of unpacking and taking that closet and going, look, it's not a lot. It's just, you just have to recognize it. And half the battle is going, okay, so now I've got 4 categories. I don't have to worry about those 2 because they're great. I just have to worry about this 1 or 2. And what can I do? What actions can I take to eliminate or mitigate the things on this side of the list, my time in it, my effort in it, my investment in it, so that I can spend the time that I gain on the things that matter the most to me.
Okay, so if I'm looking at this quadrant.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
My quadrant.
Perfect.
And my bottom left is multiplication. I'm thinking about who are the people I want to spend time with in my foxhole.
Yes. Foxhole. That's my foxhole category. Yeah, foxhole is, I tell a story about what a foxhole is. Obviously, it's a military background, and all soldiers have to learn how to dig foxholes and do it because they either protect you from people along the way, or they give you an opportunity to be offensive in a place where you wouldn't ordinarily be offensive. And so one of the things you learn about foxholes when you learn about them is the most important thing for foxholes are that they are a place where you keep your foxhole buddies alive in the military. And the people that have ever spent any time in a true foxhole together, they have lifelong bonds to one another because they kept each other alive for a period of time. And they dealt with the same level of stress and emotional distress and all the things that go along with that kind of horrific scenario. But it's that shared common experience that kind of creates the power of the foxhole over time. And I think that particularly in real estate that we're in, I think we kind of are overly inclusive, and and you're a leader like I'm a leader, and the biggest flaw of being a leader is you see more in people than they see in themselves, right? And so we get more and more and more inclusive, trying to help the world and prop the world up and lift the world up and do the things, but we don't ever take time to realize there really is a core of people that I really need to take care of, that are going to be worth the energy that I'm going to be putting out, but more importantly, they're going to have my back no matter what. And they're going to give me the energy back that I need to go out and do the things I want to do. But I can't treat everybody. Foxholes are not luxury beachfront condos. They are dugout holes with the butt of a rifle or a spoon or your bare hands, and they're survival ditches. And you need to know that when push comes to shove, who is around you that you would take in your foxhole, because you know you would come out of there alive and you would survive something that most people wouldn't survive. And I think that, if you live long enough, you're going to have a crisis. You're either going to create your own, or God's going to give you one, whether it's, a divorce, a sickness, an employment tragedy, whatever. There's all kinds of things that can happen that we didn't ask for and never would. But the one thing that I've learned in my life is when you go through those, they really do shine a light on who and what is important in our life. And I think coming out of COVID, everybody's kind of been in their foxhole for a year,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's been in the confines of their own home, and their social life got cut off and their liberties got cut off and everything. And if you haven't taken the time to kind of assess who and what is important after this, well, this book's going to help you do that. But it's really important. And because, you're the only thing you have to go on is the past performance of people in your life, and the ones that showed up unconditionally, they're the ones you're going to pick on the team for the next one.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because I shared with you earlier, I had emergency surgery in 15 and my colon. And I will tell you that some of my very, very best friends did not know how to support me during that time, because they didn't have the knowledge or hadn't gone through an experience like that.
Right.
And it was interesting who showed up to support me. And so sometimes it's not just who you like, it's also who's had that experience before and who knows what to do to keep you alive.
Yeah, saying the right thing and saying the right thing because and you've been there is two totally different things. But it's there's one of the chapters in the book is called Fractures, and it's about understanding that we're in a world that's trying to mask fractures, right? Nobody wants to really. When you've got a 4-year-old that loses their mind because they're in emotional tailspin, they don't know how to cover that up. And you can just see Johnny's having a meltdown. But as we get older, we kind of learn how to have our meltdowns and not let the world see them. Right. So, and the problem is we kind of get up and we start determining along the way that the things that I know that bother me as a human being, I might not want you to see. And so I spend a lot of time and effort and energy trying to cover those things up and trying to appear more perfect. But the reality is, it's truly the fractures that we have in life that make us likable. We're connected by the pain we share, or the struggles we had, or just the ordeals we've lived through that are common to one another. And if you're perfect, you're probably boring. Right. So I don't really want perfect. I want to hang out with the land of misfit toys, and I want to have fun. But I can't connect with you if you're not going to embrace the fact that you're a little screwed up too in places, and acknowledging we all are, and looking for commonalities in those fractures and things that we perceive as flaws is kind of a big part of that, in my opinion. And I think that, when you go through that, I mean, you look back on that and you have such a different perspective on anything to do with that, right? I mean, somebody else has an issue. Now, you may not even know them, but you're going to be able to show up in a way that's so empathetic and so impactful for somebody that you now can use that power for good for somebody else, and you will.
Well, that and educating people, right? It's interesting how some people just are fearful of going to a hospital. It's
Oh my
interesting.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you have no idea until you're in that place, and then you realize, okay, well, who do I really want in my foxhole? Somebody who may be experienced in digging, somebody who may be experienced in watching out for the enemy, somebody who, and I think in this real estate market right now, you really need to surround yourself with the right people, because it's really easy to get a negative mindset out there with, oh my gosh, we're never going to get a buyer sold, or we're never going to take another listing, right?
When I was going through my divorce, I was invited to a Christmas party with one of my agents who I really like. And I mentioned this in the book. Um, and I walked into the door and he said, look, here's what I need you to know. There aren't a lot of people here tonight, but here's what you need to know. The people that are here, every single person in this house is a lifter. Every one of them. Every one of them has proven themselves as a lifter in our lives, and that's why they're here, including you. So while you may not know people, know that there's a common bond here of lifters, and go figure out what makes them a lifter, because there are no leaners in this house tonight. And I thought, that is awesome,
That's
right? Lifters and leaners. So it's who are the lifters in your world, and who are the leaners in your world? More importantly, are you a lifter or are you a leaner? And where are you a lifter, and where do you think you might be a leaner? And there's just all these things that you just kind of think about, and you just realize, God, this energy thing is just so powerful, and we just don't always pay attention to it. But thinking of people as lifters and leaners, it's such a powerful concept, because we're always looking to give me all the lifters I can handle. I can actually take all. It's the leaners that make us afraid not to go big.
so here's your lifters and here's your leaners.
Amen, sister. You got it.
I like that.
You got it.
Can't see what's on my paper either, so I'm holding it far enough away.
That's
So
okay. As long as my name's not being covered up down in that bottom right hand corner.
no, I mean,
That's good.
it's so funny because I've heard you speak so many times in training, and you were always one of the most impactful speakers, especially in leadership. I mean, I always got so much from you. And so it's awesome that you've poured your energy into this. If you're speaking to teens right now, and you're speaking to leaders of teams, what would you tell them about leading their team through today's real estate market with the effortless mindset?
Well, I think that if you're a leader in any capacity, your goal is to help people get really crystal clear about the vision they have for what they're doing. In the book, the end all be all for me is a chapter called Freedom. And I think that we're all wanting to live a life that is freedom based. And the way I define freedom in the book is, it is a life completely absent of anxiety. And if we can get to a place where we live like that, that's great. But as a leader of a team, I think that's kind of a goal for any leader. I want to have a team that is in alignment. I want to have a team that lifts each other up. I want to have a team that is clear about priorities. I want to have a team that is not afraid to say no, not afraid to ask questions, not afraid to raise their hand. And everybody feels like everybody else is a foxhole buddy, and that it's a safe place to be vulnerable, including for the leader, because nobody likes a leader that's full of shit. And nobody likes a leader who's not realistic. And it's okay to be aggressive, and it's okay to have big goals, and it's okay to be whatever, but you also have to temper that with a dose of realism, and certainly a dose of vulnerability, and admitting that we're going to try it. We're going to try it. We're going to try it. And we're going to do this, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to communicate around it. And I think right now leaders just have a really tough job, because they have to communicate in a really realistic way by staying positive and helping people get to the next level of freedom in their business, because we're in a business where stress and anxiety, sometimes rules the day if you don't have the skills for that. So if you're a leader who's kind of figured that out, some of the best things you can do as a leader is helping people with things that might not be particularly or obviously tangible to your goal, but in fact, having pouring into people and helping them be better and helping them be more complete and helping them be less stressed and helping them be more organized and more systematic and more accountable, it does create that freedom. And not everybody gets to see that, but I think that's a leader's job, is to kind of help people see something that they didn't see before. In my teaching, one of the things that I've always said, particularly in getting listings and recruiting agents for me, is it was about what I call factor. And anytime you're having a conversation with somebody, your goal is to get that person to say, a lot. Because if I can have a conversation with Shanan and she's going and you're trying to figure out whether to come to my office or come to one of the other offices in town, you're going to make that decision. If I'm on point, you're going to make that decision because I made you go, I never thought about that. That's interesting. That's a really interesting thing there. I think I could probably do that. But anytime you just kind of press a button and somebody goes, and you challenge their comfort level and you challenge their way of thinking in a positive, non-threatening way where they just feel like, I can learn from you. There's something about you that I can learn from. It goes back to your thing with what you're doing with coaching the team leaders, and you're giving them that whole language. You're giving them a bag of factors, and they're just going to go, they're having these conversations with people going, I didn't even know that it was even an option for me. I didn't even know I could do a Google store. I didn't even know about Home Light or whatever it is, right? So I think leaders have to get really good at factor without running things down people's throats, because I think, we see a lot of people that, leaders feel like they're doing somebody, there are a lot of people, we've seen it all, right? Somebody makes himself a leader in this business and they go about it all wrong because they think, oh my God, I'm getting a team and I'm giving all this opportunity to people and I'm giving all this opportunity and I'm doing all this stuff for other people and I'm growing and I'm spending all this money for people and I'm doing and I'm doing and I'm doing and I'm doing. And the reality is, dude, you got it all wrong.
It's a we.
It's we, but you got to look at look at what they're giving you. Look at the freedom they're giving you. Look at the opportunity they're giving you. Look at the lead conversion opportunities they're giving you. Look at all the leverage they're giving you. Those people that said yes to you are going to bless your life and your business, but you have to acknowledge that. And you have to realize that's what you have to communicate on a daily basis. You're not doing anybody else a favor. They're doing you a favor.
So as a team lead, your job is to get really good at questions.
Oh,
because questions is when they go, right? And I will tell you, when I was a recruiter a long time ago, back when you and I first met, I had a game with myself that I'd walk out after an interview and my front desk would say, did you get in their head? That I didn't realize it was the
hum factor.
Right? It was the lobotomy factor. Did I get in their heads? Did I stir them up? Did they go, what just happened in there? And how could I not be here? And I think it's the same thing when you're going on a listing appointment right now. Like, you have to have your question so big that seller says, I have to go with them because they're going to cause the auction effect. They're going to get me multiple offers. They're going to help protect me through this, get me the most equity possible. And nobody else asked me questions. They just did a show and tell.
So everybody walks into a meeting with an expectation, and you're either going to fall below their expectation, or in most cases, you might meet their expectation. But the people that learn how to blow their expectation, blow the lid off of it, that's where you win. It's not what do they expect from me and how do I meet that? It's what are they thinking that I can make them realize is not the right way to think about it without telling them that. How can I help them self-discover by asking the right questions, having the right conversations that they feel like they're a part of? Because if they answer the question that I ask, we both share in that win, and there's a comfort level with that. Nobody likes to be told. I mean, we sell a lot of houses for people that are high-level employees, high-level whatever. And if you treat them like they don't know as much as you do because you do this every day, you're going to lose. But if you bring them into the conversation, say, well, I'm sure you understand in your business how this works. And this is, in our business, this is kind of the same thing in your business. And they go, oh, I see that. I never would have made that correlation. That's okay. Now I get that. That's a score one for the realtor, right? So you're getting in their head, but it's the art of the conversation. And it's, if you walk into a meeting, if you've got one note in front of you, it should be ask great questions, right?
Yep. It's
If
all
you,
about the question.
if
Any parting thoughts, Shaun, as we end our interview today?
no, I just think
Go buy the book.
hang on. Yeah. Buy the book for sure.
We'll put the link in the group.
Put the link in. And it's on Audible now. So if you just want to hear me read it to you, I can do that too. It's me reading it. I hope this book's going to help people live better lives. It's, I've been passionate about it for a long time, and I wanted people to have great lives in our business when I was running it. And now I'm super passionate about it, and I've put it in these pages of this book. And I think there's just a lot of stuff in here that's going to help people just be better and recognize where they can be better and where they're settling. Here's what the parting thought would be. We are the most adaptable species on the planet, right? There's no other species on the planet that can adapt more. And we tend to like the idea that we're great adapters, but here's the problem with adaptation. When we adapt, we typically adapt to things that are less than ideal for us. We adapt to jobs that aren't great for us. We adapt to relationships that aren't great for us. We adapt to environments that aren't great for us. And that's not necessarily what adaptability is supposed to be. We can adapt to things that are more than ideal for us just as easy as we can adapt to things that are less than ideal for us. We just have to be clear about what we want to adapt to, because if we're not, we're just going to adapt to the lowest common denominator. So I think you have to look at your life and your business and go, where am I settling into a comfort zone of fine? And where is the opportunity for fantastic in my world? And how do I move the pendulum from fine to fantastic in this area? Because we could list 100 different areas of life where we're settling for fine and we want fantastic, but until you really look at it, you're never going to realize it. And you're just going to realize that the way you live is a pattern that is predetermined to be fine unless you truly put it under the microscope and look at it on a regular basis, because things change. I mean, 3 months from now, you might have different answers on your paper than you have today. And that's supposed to be the case, because if that's the case, you're making progress. If it's always the same things on your paper, you're not moving. So adapt better for you. And if you adapt better for you, you're going to be better for everything else in your world.
So what I heard today is quit saying F it.
Yeah, quit saying F it. Live effortless.
Shaun, thank you so much for joining us at GSD. And
awesome.
If you guys have any questions, put in here in the group. I'd love to hear your ahas from the interview. Go buy the book, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you so much.
You're the best. Congrats.